All right, we're going to go on a pretty interesting journey today, exploring the very architecture of meaning. We'll start with something super personal, the labels that define us, and connect it all the way back to something epic, like the ancient stones that define our past. Have you ever felt that? The feeling of being put in a box by just a single word, a label that feels a little too tight, a little too rigid for who you really are. It's a strange feeling, but I bet it's a familiar one. Think about it. A diagnosis, a job title, even a role in your own family. These aren't just descriptions, are they? They're more like little instruction manuals. They tell us and everyone else how we're supposed to act and where we fit in. And this is where it gets complicated, because there's a huge paradox here. On one hand, labels are amazing tools for coordination. They help big systems, like companies or governments, handle all sorts of complexity. But on the other hand, they can be instruments of containment, taking a dynamic, changing person and freezing them in place. So how do they have so much power? Well, they reduce that uncomfortable feeling of uncertainty by giving everyone clear rules and expectations. They make existing power dynamics feel totally normal. And maybe, most importantly, they externalize our identity, so people start reacting to the label, not the actual person. So when does a helpful tool become a harmful trap? Well, it's right at that tipping point, when a label is forced on you, when it replaces curiosity with certainty, and when it's clear it's there to serve the system, not you. Okay, so what happens when those labels or the systems they support just fall apart? We're always told to go get support, to connect, but there's another phase we don't talk about enough. It's about taking that painful feeling of being alone and turning into something powerful, a tool for rebuilding. Let's call it incubation, not isolation. And you gotta understand, there's a world of difference between just stabilizing and actually reconstructing. Stabilization is like first aid. It's about preventing a total collapse. But reconstruction, that's building something brand new from the ground up. And for that, you often need some quiet space. We really need a better word for this. Isolation sounds negative. Incubation? That feels right. It's not about being lonely. It's about being in a state of low signal. Creating a protected space so your internal architecture, your sense of self, can basically reboot and reorganize. And that's the key emotional difference, isn't it? Loneliness just drains you. It depletes you. Incubation, on the other hand, it protects you. It's the cocoon you need for that deep, fundamental change to happen. Now, here's where we're going to zoom way, way out. What if this personal journey of rebuilding who you are isn't just a modern thing? What if it's connected to a much older human story, one that's literally written in stone? To get our heads around this, let's leave our inner world for a second and travel back to the ancient world. We're going to look at Stonehenge, of all things, to see what a 5,000-year-old monument can teach us about meaning today. I mean, just try to imagine it. A world with no writing, no blueprints, no spreadsheets, nothing. For the people building Stonehenge, their entire existence was basically one continuous act of coordinating with each other. Meaning wasn't something you thought about. It was something you did, together, all the time. Think about what that implies. All knowledge wasn't in a book. It lived inside people's bodies, in their habits, in their rituals. Rituals weren't just for show. They were a technology for getting things done. This created this incredibly tight-knit society, for sure, but it also meant there was almost no room for flexibility. Dissent wasn't just a bad idea. It was a threat to survival. And this all leads to a really mind-bending idea. Stonehenge wasn't just a thing that a society built. In a very real way, it was the society, made visible. It was the physical proof of their total shared coordination. So how on earth did we get from that world to the one we live in now? Well, the answer is a complete game changer. We started storing our memory outside of our brains. We created an externalized memory. And that, right there, is why we still don't really know what Stonehenge was for. The meaning was in the rituals, in the doing. When the people and the rituals changed, the why just vanished. The stones outlasted the explanation. We live in such a different world because of this invention. You can think of it as the collective. It's basically everything we've managed to save outside our own heads, in books, in code, in art, in science. It's like our species' shared hard drive, letting knowledge survive for generations. And of course, that brings us right to this very moment. we've got this new, incredibly powerful tool on our hands. So, with all this talk about external knowledge, where does something like AI fit into the picture?
The answer is actually simpler than you might think. AI isn't the collective itself. It doesn't hold the meaning. AI is an access layer. Think of it like a revolutionary new key to the library. It dramatically lowers the cost of getting into that vast library of human knowledge and finding what you need.
So, let's bring this all full circle. We went from personal labels to Stonehenge to AI. What's the big takeaway for us right now? It all points to a kind of shared responsibility we have. Because here's the crucial point. Just giving everyone access to all the information in the world isn't enough. In fact, access without coordination just creates noise. Our big challenge now is to move from coordinating bodies, like they did at Stonehenge, to coordinating minds around shared, meaningful goals. And this framing is so important. Kindness and cooperation don't usually fail because people are bad or lack virtue. They fail because the systems we live in make being kind difficult. They make it expensive or confusing, or they make you feel alone for trying. And that leaves us with a really powerful mission. This isn't about shaming people into being better. It's an engineering problem. The goal is to design our systems, our technology, our communities, our economies, so that doing the right thing, the kind thing, the constructive thing, is also the easiest and most obvious thing to do. That is the architecture of a better future.